Welcome to the Saturday night edition of Sports Weekly Podcast. We're 1 week away from Super Bowl 55 in Tampa Bay between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But before we get to that game tonight, we're going to recap the both AFC and NFC Championship games. We'll go back through both of those games and break down what happened. Mike, we'll talk a little bit of legacy with Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. Uh, Tom Brady, who just played his 14th conference championship, and Patrick Mahomes just played his third. We'll talk Josh Allen and his arrival this season, his growth, and what it means for Buffalo. Well, and then there's Aaron Rodgers, Mr. MVP, and what the future holds for him in Green Bay. And after losing their second consecutive NFC Championship game. So sit down, get comfortable, and listen in. Let's get started. My panel for tonight, or my sole panel tonight, is Mr. Michael Robinson, who heads Ascension Athletics. Mike is a quarterback coach and mentors many young athletes. Welcome in, Mike.
Thank you for having me today.
How you doing, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, man. So let's talk about this Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo game first. The
Okay.
Chiefs were winning their. The Chiefs are in their third consecutive AFC Championship game. The Bills started off this game early with a 9-point lead. They jumped on Kansas City real early. But what went wrong after that? I mean, it just seemed like same thing. They kind of unfolded after that.
Yeah, I think what you saw was a young team. If you have your leader, the quarterback, right, facing the franchise, being one of the younger players on the team, it's about experience, getting those reps in at crucial times, getting to see those scenarios and those types of plays under pressure and everything. It's a lot. It's a lot for anybody to ask of any one player. And I know it's a team game, and we like to say, no one mistake or whatever. But when you have a quarterback in today's NFL, a lot goes through him. And I just think that it was a growing moment, right?
Yeah.
Josh Allen had to see it. He had to be there. And when you think of Kansas City, no lead is safe, right? So if no lead is safe, factored in with a young quarterback who just hasn't experienced those moments, things can get away from you quickly, especially against a team that's as dangerous as Kansas City.
Absolutely, man. This it actually reminded me of last year being a Texans fan. We were up 24-0, and it was just downhill from there. So when I saw it 9-0, I was like, but Kansas City's not out of it by any means. And being in the first quarter, Kansas City's offense, like you mentioned, how do you stop it? Tell me what makes this Kansas City offense so effective.
I think what makes it effective is the play calling, the variation of looks and movements that they have pre-snap. Andy Reid, right? Being a Philadelphia Eagles fan my whole life, watching him now with Kansas City and doing the different things that they're doing, you factor in the personnel that they have, how many different variations of simple sets that they can have, the types of motions. I mean, let's be clear, they're putting the quarterback in motion now, right? That hasn't been done before. That's a lot for any team to scheme for. And then even with all that movement you're doing, I would imagine that a lot of those looks are dummy looks, right? Essentially, we're ending up with some sort of base formation or something like that. And so you have to game plan for that. It's hard to game plan for all of them, right? And
I remember Eric Bieniemy saying during the week that we may not throw any new looks out there, but we're going to have some new wrinkles, something that you haven't seen before. So I guess that's that goes in the same mind frame as what you were just saying.
Absolutely. And so with Kansas City, how do you stop that? I don't know if we have the answer to that yet, right? We really haven't seen it. How do you stop it? I would say they would have to stop themselves at this point, right? You kind of hope that they get off to a slow start. You hope that Pat Mahomes is going to be off that day. Little bit. And what does that look like, right? That looks like we're not as explosive as we were. We're still putting up points, and they can start putting up points at any time. So you have to hope that he has an off game. You have to hope that their defense isn't playing with a huge lead where they can pin their ears back, rush the passer, and play coverage behind it. You have to hope for a lot of things to kind of break your way with going against this present-day Kansas City team.
Right. And, speaking of slowing down Patrick Mahomes, prior to this game against the Browns, he had suffered a concussion and was in concussion protocol this week, as well as before that, coming into the game, he was dealing with a little bit of turf toe, and I don't know, it didn't seem like it affected him that much because the Kansas, their offense was rolling, but these things can linger, and we'll see how it goes forward. But what about Buffalo? Let's talk a little bit about Buffalo. You talked a little bit about Josh Allen. Man, he played really well this year. I don't know if it was just maturity, a new offensive coordinator, or what it. Oh, actually, I think Dayball has been there for a few years now. I don't know if it was just being under that system again for another year, but it just seemed to all come together this year. He played amazing.
Absolutely. When you look at Josh Allen, he had a lot of doubters coming in. He's far from a finished product right now, which I think is kind of a scary thing. That I think he would probably admit that he has a lot of improvement to do. I think the scariest, maybe not the scariest, the biggest thing that I saw from him this year was him against the blitz. And I know there's a lot of numbers and it's been chronicled how he's improved against the blitz. But what I saw just from a quarterbacking standpoint was somebody who was calm facing that pressure. He never really got rattled. I think the play that we probably would define Josh Allen, especially here in Houston, a play that probably defined him as far as how we viewed him was a play he had in the playoffs against Houston where he rolls right and throws a 40, 50-yard go route to a fullback down the sideline, right? Obviously, we don't know what the play call was. It's hard to imagine that going to the fullback 40 yards downfield was the call that he probably, or the player he wanted to throw the ball to. But I think all this comes from facing adversity and just having probably a better understanding of the offense. And let's be clear too, Diggs helps an offense. He helps any offense, right?
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Actually, having a number one there that at any point in time you can go to and he can probably make a play on the ball does wonders for a quarterback's mentality. Now you're playing fast.
Absolutely.
You have that number one.
Yeah, no, that's a great point that you bring up. Diggs, man, that was a great pickup from the Minnesota Vikings. And you could even say Beasley was a good safety net for him too this year. He played great too. And I don't want to think Buffalo overachieved because I think they really were that good of a team this year. Their last loss came on a Hail Mary play that really, we look back and that amazing amazing DeAndre Hopkins catch. That was their last loss, and so they really had played well this year. All right, turning our attention, let's talk about the let me just end by saying Kansas City went on to win, and they'll be representing the AFC in Super Bowl 55, 38-24. And so we'll see how we'll talk about that in a bit too. But changing our attention to the NFC, this was a really highly touted game between two legends, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, who I think is the MVP this year. Tom Brady, man, playing in his 14th conference championship game, and Aaron Rodgers being here just last year against the 49ers. What stood out to me in this game was how quick Tampa Bay was able to get off in the first quarter. And I think that led to them sustaining it throughout the game. But, Green Bay had their chances, and so I want to know what you think. What do you think happened?
Let me say this: going into the game of the two championship games, what I thought going into those games is that I thought Buffalo had a better shot of beating Kansas City than I did Tampa Bay beating Green Bay.
Really?
I did.
Wow.
I did. I thought Aaron Rodgers was playing at another level. I thought that the Green Bay defense, which really hasn't shown up in the way that they showed up last year, they hadn't shown up this year. I thought maybe that playoff Green Bay defense would happen. Not that I had any indication that would happen. I just kind of thought that and then looking at the AFC side, I thought Buffalo had probably the most consistently explosive offense on the AFC side. They from game to game they put up numbers, so that's kind of what I thought going in. But in terms of just the NFC Championship game, it's just the greatness of Tom Brady, right? Just knowing, being in those situations.
Before you say that, you got to give some credit to that Tampa Bay defense.
Absolutely. Young, fast, aggressive defense, especially led by that linebacking core with Levante David and Devin White. Young defensive backs who are just playing without fear right now. And then that front four is stout. It's stout right now. And so they were able to keep Tampa Bay with, within competitive reach just from holding their own, right? They hold their own.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you here, Mike.
Yeah.
Shaquille Barrett and JPP combined for 5 sacks. I mean, I just think that defense played really well. Don't get me wrong. We know Tom Brady is a great quarterback, and I feel like he set the tempo early.
Right.
But why? Look, what makes Tom so great in these situations, Mike? How does he continue to get to this point?
Just being there. I mean, he's dedicated himself to the game, right? Like someone that's in that great of shape, right? He knows his limitations. He knows what
he's not running anywhere, Mike. What do you mean he's in great shape?
But you have to play that position to take those hits for all those years. You have to be able to manage your body well. It's not being in shape doesn't always necessarily look like I'm out of breath or whatever. It may be I'm in shape enough to keep my body healthy throughout the season to be available for my team, right? What do we always tell kids? What's your best ability? Your availability. Tom makes himself available to his team in every situation. You can't recall a time where maybe he got pulled out of the game or he's throwing up on the field or something or anything, right? Tom is always available to his team, and he has the experience of previous situations. I think that's some of his greatest. I think that's probably his greatest attribute he can offer a team.
Okay, let me ask you this. Was it something that Tampa did the last month of the season, or was it just Tom finding a rhythm with his wide receivers, with Godwin, with Evans, with Scotty Miller? Rob, Gronkowski, sometimes he goes missing during the game, and then all of a sudden he makes this, this incredible catch on third and 15 or third and 10, and then, Tampa keeps the drive alive. It's just, you can bring up Cameron Braid, you can bring up Leonard Fournette, who missed a lot of the season, but just, it just feels like they just put it together this last month of the season, and they're able to, carry that over to the playoffs. So, like you said, Tom has been great. I think throwing 3 interceptions. Here's the stat for you, Mike. This is the first time a quarterback who has thrown 3 interceptions. Hold on, what is that? This is the first time a quarterback has thrown 3 interceptions in an AFC Championship game in advance. And this is the first time a quarterback who has thrown 3 touchdowns in a game in Aaron Rodgers and has not advanced. Yeah. So there's a stat for you there. So I don't know. I don't want to say Tom Brady is the luckiest of all time, but, he has been pretty damn lucky, man. But I will say he's an incredible quarterback. I think he is, by far. I will say sometimes, I'll say it now with you, he's the GOAT. But I just, I really think Aaron Rodgers is up there too. But it just seems like in big games, he's played 14 years. But Mike, he's only been to the Super Bowl 1 time. And I know football is the ultimate team sport. Yeah. But it just seems like time and time again, Brady is always here.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. All right, Mike, so let's do this. Okay. Now we've talked about Tom Brady. Let's talk a little bit about Aaron Rodgers, man. What does this mean for Aaron Rodgers?
I don't think it's
second time in the AFC. What more can Green Bay do? What more can they do?
Right. And look, we can sit here at home and say, hey, they need a receiver, they need this, they need that. Hey, rookies are kind of hit or miss with that, right? We watched, before the season, we were talking about this might be the greatest rookie receiver class of all time, right?
Right.
You had Justin Jefferson, played really well, right? And then you had other people like Henry Ruggs, who we thought was entering into a good situation, who didn't perform how we may have expected them to, right? So simply saying that, hey, they should have got receivers for Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if that is a fix. The first thing when I think about this year's Green Bay team is defense. And the defense didn't play how they played the year before. And that was a huge thing that they had going for them with the Smith brothers on the outside playing, their defensive backs playing really well. Unfortunately, we didn't see that sort of defense from them this year. That puts a lot on the offense. Especially if you're going into the season thinking you're getting something from your defense, and week in and week out, you're finding yourself not only not getting that, but having to make up for their shortcomings from game to game. That puts a lot of stress on the offense. And you have Devontae Adams, who missed some time for injury.
Right.
Then you have some unproven guys on the outside. And then when you talk about going into the playoffs, you had, if I'm not mistaken, 2 offensive linemen, 2 of your starting offensive tackles who were missing for the playoffs. Right. And so that's a lot. I think oftentimes, though, we see Aaron Rodgers and we see his greatness, and we suspect for him to make up for that. And that might be part of his legacy, right? At the end of the day, we look back at him in the same lens that we look at Dan Marino at. Great talent. Unfortunately, his teams were not good enough to get him there, but I don't think we would fault Aaron Rodgers for the shortcomings when it's all said and done.
I just think he's the most efficient quarterback. And you want to talk about technique and footwork? It's just impeccable. Yeah. You as a quarterback coach, you would teach Aaron Rodgers film over Tom Brady.
I wouldn't. And here's why.
Really?
Here's why.
Okay.
So if I'm talking about a young quarterback, right? When you look at some of Aaron Rodgers' early stuff, if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, we would be talking about some of the throws that Aaron Rodgers makes, right?
Right.
And those are things that I wouldn't necessarily teach a young quarterback. That would come with experience, a maturation of your body, so forth and so on. And if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, some of the things that Aaron Rodgers has done and will continue to do, it's amazing. And it's not something I would tell a kid, hey, look at this. Because Tom Brady is limited athletically, because he's limited in the ways, he has to be mechanically sound. He has to be efficient with his movements. He has to have a lot of things go right and be on platform and all those sorts of things so that he can get the most out of his body into his throws and so forth. So that's the only reason. That's why I say I would have kids look at Tom Brady before I have them look at Aaron Rodgers. Now, of course, once they get older and they get a little bit more mature and they're able to do some more things, we start exploring some of the other quarterbacks and pulling things from there. But Aaron Rodgers is just, I mean, like I said before, if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, we would talk about Aaron Rodgers in this way. And if I'm not mistaken, we want to talk about Aaron Rodgers in this way. Now it's like, okay, all been rewritten.
Man, another thing with Green Bay is, like you were just saying, I feel like Aaron Rodgers just has to be perfect. He just has to be perfect. Yeah. He can't have anything go wrong. I mean, who can fault him for throwing 3 touchdowns and 1 interception and your team still lose, you know? So,
I think about him. I think about him the same way, and if we're to do cross-sports comparisons, I think about him kind of as like an Allen Iverson. You have to build a very specific team.
There you go. That's a good comparison.
Yeah.
You have to build that team around him, and he has to just be perfect. And if he's not perfect, you're going to lose.
Right.
And, unfortunately, that's what happened this year.
Right.
So now, what does Green Bay do this offseason? After the game, Aaron Rodgers said a few things. He doesn't know about the future.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that's just frustration, coming after a loss. But, he's under contract.
Right.
Green Bay could be in this position again next year. They were here last year. Do you feel like he's going to be back next year? Do you think Green Bay? They drafted a quarterback number 1.
Yes.
Jordan Love.
Yes.
And so he's sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
Still developing as Rodgers did behind Brett Favre. Right. So he's waiting. But I mean, does Green Bay keep him? Do they move him? How what does the future hold for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay and in the NFL?
Right. I think you hit the nail on the head when you were speaking earlier. This is frustration. The things that we heard from Aaron Rodgers is frustration, right? You catch any competitor the moment that they lose, and you're going to hear frustration. You're going to hear things that may not necessarily be true. It's the reason why we say, slow to speak when you're angry, right? Like, you don't want to say certain things because some things are going to come out that you didn't necessarily mean, right? I think as far as Green Bay, I think they're going to look very similar to the way they look this year, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe they get a free agent here or there, but let's remember, Green Bay has never been a big player in free agency. That's just not the way they've gone about doing things historically. It always seems they get a player that maybe a year, 2 years past where you're kind of thinking that more name value than actual value. So I think the team looks the same. I think they kind of hope that some of their outside talent, the perimeter talent, and Valdez-Scantling and St. Brown and those Lazard, those type of people, they mature and get better after a year. I know I've read several reports that they're very high on Alan Lazard. So maybe, it's one of those things that, we just haven't seen yet, right? And so I think the fact that I had not seen Jordan Love in a game that I can recall, not to say that I watched every Green Bay game, But the fact that we didn't see him in mop-up duty or, here or there or whatever, I think that says a lot. Maybe they don't feel like he's ready. I've even read some places that there's another quarterback on the roster that they feel is more game ready right now. And so with that being, I think that Aaron Rodgers is back. I think that we see largely the same type of cast, maybe a few changes here and there on defense. But I think Green Bay just retools and gets a year better and uses the experience. And you kind of hope that Aaron Rodgers is able to string together another year like he had this year.
Right.
And with Matt
He was
LaFleur,
unbelievable this year.
yeah,
He was really, really good this year. And I was,
yeah,
I was a little surprised at the result. But
yeah,
here we are, Mike. So Super Bowl 55. We've got Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes.
yes,
I think this is what a lot of the viewers wanted to
right,
see.
right,
And so this is the first time you'll have two Super Bowl winning quarterbacks who have already played in the Super Bowl and won in the Super Bowl facing each other. So this will be the first time, and this will be the first time a home team will actually be playing in their own home field for a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, it won't be with as many fans, so maybe that's a factor. But just I don't want to break down this game yet because we still got another week, and we're gonna have another show
right.
before now and then. But just give me your, just give the listeners a little glimpse of what you can expect in Super Bowl 55. And if you want to pick a winner, you can. If you want to save it for next week's show, we can do that too. But just give us something about Super Bowl 55.
Got you. I definitely won't pick a winner. That's not. I'm not ready to go there yet.
Okay, that's fair.
I think some of the storylines that you mentioned are going to be prevalent, right? I think Super Bowl week, you have one team that's going home at the end of the day, right? And eating food at home and getting to see their family, their loved ones. I mean, I think that's huge. I mean,
comfort zone. Yeah.
Right. I think actually the fans would kind of balance it out, right? Because you're getting fans from both teams. And now that you're not getting fans from both teams, I think Tampa Bay has an advantage in the fact that they're playing at home, literally going to be at home. As far as on the field, you kind of wonder if Kansas City's going to get off to another slow start, or if they're going to take off like the Kansas City that we see mid-season, early season when it's warm outside. Defensively from Kansas City, I want to see if they vary their defensive looks. We all know that the kind of the recipe that's out there for beating Tom Brady is pressure with your front four, playing coverage behind that. And so you want to see, can Kansas City generate front four pressure? Do they change up the looks in the back half? Because Tom Brady has seen it all. There's nothing you're going to throw at Tom Brady to confuse him. So you're kind of hoping that once again he has an off day. You confuse him maybe on one or two plays, and you're able to capitalize on those plays that you did confuse him. As far as for Tampa Bay, you want to see if they're going to have all their weapons. Is Antonio Brown going to be healthy? Is Rojo is he going
to be healthy?
Right.
He was out for the he was out for the championship game. Right.
You have a lot of injury concerns in which you kind of want to see them get healthy. We want to see both teams come in healthy and play at full strength, but you want to see how healthy Tampa Bay is. Also, too, how do they manage those lulls in the offense where the offense isn't moving the ball as well as they are? Because they can be very explosive. You get some 3 and outs there, 6 and outs, right? Yeah. And so you want to see they can be offensively consistent so that to keep Kansas City off the field, if Kansas City is coming out playing the Kansas City that we all know that
they see a high-scoring game.
I don't. I think that the nerves of Super Bowl still belong there. I mean, excuse me, the nerves of the Super Bowl are still there. So I think that, maybe we don't see, a 13-7 game, but I think we're expecting 40s, 40 to 37, something like that. I don't think that we see that many points up.
I think that's what the fans want to see.
Yeah, the fans want to see. They want to see points, right? But I think the nerves of it all, the finality of it all, I think that has to come into play. And then let's be clear. Kansas City hasn't got off to good starts, right?
That's a problem.
Tampa Bay
has.
Right. And so you kind of want to see how those things are going to play out going into the game and seeing throughout the game.
All right, you heard it first from Mike Robinson, man. It was a pleasure having you on, man. It was a good show. I really appreciate it. And we're going to do this again. We're definitely going to do this again right before the Super Bowl. And hopefully, Mike, you'll give us a pick by then, right?
Hopefully, I can give y'all a pick, man. If the fans, if everyone wants it, I'll throw a pick out there. It'll probably be wrong.
Yeah, you got to give us a pick, man. Regardless of the game, we appreciate you having you on. You're welcome back anytime. and we'll do this again.
Hey,
Have a good one, Mike.
thank you for
Take care,
having
man.
me anytime, man.